My role is a SCORE volunteer. SCORE, how many of you all have heard of SCORE? Wonderful. How many of you have used SCORE? Okay, you two you could make the presentation. How's it? Yeah, okay. Well, the key thing is, what we're trying to do at SCORE is provide mentors, which is one of the things that Cynthia mentioned right off the bat. We provide mentors for small and startup businesses. SCORE is a 51-year-old organization. It was founded in 1964 when the SBA was just getting started. The SBA was created by President Lyndon Johnson, and we celebrated last year our 50th anniversary as an organization. SCORE is a national organization. We have 360 locations all over the country. We have about 12,000 volunteers all over the country, and we provide free mentoring to all and any startup businesses or businesses that have been in existence for any period of time. So we are a resource partner of the SBA, as Alex mentioned. There also are SBDCs, which are affiliated with various universities throughout the area. There are women-owned business centers, which Alex mentioned as well. SCORE in the DC office is headquartered in the SBA building, and our funding comes primarily, 50% of our funding comes from the SBA, and the other 50% comes from workshops that we put on. I handed out brochures that list the workshops that we have throughout our DC chapter. However, if any of you all are not in the DC area, there are SCORE chapters in Baltimore, in Richmond, in Los Angeles, you name it. They're all over the country, and we all are interlinked with SCORE National, which is headquartered out here in Herndon, Virginia, just a short distance up the road. So what is SCORE? We are primarily, or we're all exclusively volunteers with the exception of one administrative assistant that we have. And we primarily are former business people. We've either been in business ourselves or we've worked for other businesses. And what we provide is advice on how not to do what we screwed up at. We want to keep you all from doing and making the same mistakes that we made over the period of time that we were doing our own business. My background is in the insurance industry. As Tia mentioned, I'm no longer actually doing anything with the Abbott Business Insurance Consultants, but I was a consultant, risk management insurance consultant for a number of large corporations over the past 10 years prior to my retirement. But in that activity, I created a consulting firm similar to what Liz is going to do, and I'm going to pirate your. Well, you sold her, Cynthia. You know, you snooze, you lose. I mean, what can I say?
Oh, I see how it is. Candidates, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But what we do is we provide one-on-one mentoring to individuals throughout the DC area. I included in the packet a list of the locations that we have in the DC area. And if anyone is interested in getting mentoring, all you have to do is to look at the location that is most convenient for you. And there's a phone number there. You call and set up an appointment. And then you and a mentor, someone like me, would sit down, and primarily what the mentor would do initially is listen. Our job is to find out what your idea is, what your passion is, what your program is, and then where are the issues and where are the problems that you might have. So we are primarily listening and then providing advice and suggestions and recommendations. We have no limit on the number of times that you can come and visit with us, email us, talk to us on the phone. There is no one and done. I have some clients that I've had for about 8 years of the 9 years that I've been in the volunteer end of the business. And they're good friends. Their questions have changed over time. But the key thing is that we stay in touch, and as their businesses evolve, they keep me posted on what's going on, and then I can assist them with suggestions and recommendations and other areas that we may need help with. Now, my background is in the insurance business. We have 50 other mentors in our DC chapter, and they run the gamut of expertise from government contracting to IT to retail to all kinds of other areas that are of interest in this particular geographic area. If for some reason one of you has a business that we in the DC chapter don't have expertise in, we have 12,000 volunteers all over the country, and we have their bio information that is searchable, and we can then determine if, for instance, you're interested in being a farrier. How many of you all know what a farrier is? Okay. A farrier is someone who puts shoes on a horse. Very, very specialized program. Race horses, even more so. We have an expert in Kentucky that was a farrier. Now, granted, we're not going to do a whole lot of that kind of business up here, but if someone comes across with an idea or a thought that they want to get into this kind of business, then we have the expert. We could call on them. They can provide either a email mentoring process or help in Skype and some other scenarios where we can set things up. So SCORE is available for pre-startup, for existing small businesses, and for growing businesses.
I have a creative idea, at least to me it's creative, and that is I want to franchise my operation of housing veterans with homeowners. Over the years, I've worked with my population, and I've come to find out that many of them cannot live by themselves. So we've created a model where, we get 3 of them in a house, and they run the house and make it a home, and we seem to be doing very well in there. So I started off on the nonprofit side, and then just this month I visited the SCORE office, and
where?
In DC.
The DC
Mr.
office.
Rappaport.
Oh, okay.
And actually, he referred me to you too. As
Uh-oh.
Well.
For insurance help, I would guess.
That and mentoring.
Mentoring, okay.
Yes. And so I wanted to franchise what I do, and possibly, if anyone's familiar with the Section 8 of the HUD,
Sure.
I want to franchise my model, use it for under housing under HUD, and make it nationwide.
Okay.
And I'm just a little tiny person with this big idea.
Well, that's, all of us are single people, but the idea that we have, or the ideas that we have, are not constricted or limited by the size of our head or anything else. The beauty of an idea is that it explodes and it grows and it creates its own momentum as well as its own enthusiasm. So what you need is to continue working with Mr. Rappaport, but also to work with some of the other mentors that we have, and he can set that up easily enough in order for you to go through each of the various steps that are necessary in order to get that idea off the ground. There are a ton of small steps that need to be done in order to go from what you're doing now until to number one, having another location and another, and then ultimately franchising it at some point. But the key thing is that you need to take the process step by step in order to contain it as well as to meet all the various obligations and the expenses. It's complicated, but every good idea is, and if it weren't, we all would have them, and we'd all be Bill Gates instead of Walt Abbott's, so.
Walter has some questions.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you both for coming. This question is for Cynthia. You mentioned search engine optimization. I've been reluctant to pursue that because of all the horror stories that I hear and all the scams that are out there. How can you be certain that the firm that you're dealing with is reputable?
That's a good question. For me, because we get a lot of emails, and I'm sure you do too, from companies saying, "Oh, we can increase your search engine optimization. We did this study, and you're, number 140, and on the list, and nobody's seeing you." For me, I think that trusting a company to do your branding and then have them bring that piece into it because they were doing more than just the search engine optimization, it was helpful for me. So the company that did our branding for our logo, for our collateral materials, for our website, they built all of our website and then also did the search engine optimization. So I was able to make sure that I trusted who I was doing because they were doing a lot more other things for me. They just weren't a company that was doing that one service. And for me, for what we do, we try to help our clients from A to Z because, if you're just providing one piece of something, then they have to go somewhere else to get, the other pieces. And that's kind of how I approach help that we need from third parties. If I can find a company that can do more than one thing that I need that all marry together, then I'm going to kind of go after that company because, all those things need to be connected. So I can recommend the company that helped us if you're looking for a company to help you with that search engine optimization. I need that information. But I would recommend a company that and then also check references. We ask for references all the time. People ask for us for our references, and we check them. So, ask for references and make sure that they're reputable, and then do a little bit of research on them as well.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
And this is for also Cynthia But I run into a lot of small business people who get discouraged because of the naysayers.
Mm-hmm.
And these naysayers are family members, close friends, co-workers.
Mm-hmm.
What is the appropriate response?
Well, I'll give you a part of it, but I'm sure Cynthia can add it. One of the key things that you really need is if you're passionate about what you're doing, you ought to be able to sell your own family.
Yeah.
You ought to be able to convince them that this is really a good idea. Now, the reality is that your family knows all your warts, right? They know every bit of the strengths and weaknesses that I have as an example. And so what I do, instead of taking that naysayer as an absolute, I say, what area, what portion, or what section of the question or the idea don't you feel I'm competent to do? And then that person will outline some specific areas, and then you can think about that. And it may well be that segment or that portion of the job idea is something that you would farm out, or something that you would use a consultant for in any case, or some other area. But the key thing is you have to have the support of your family, you have to have the support of your friends, because they're the ones who know you best. And they're the ones who are going to be, number one, your first clients, or at least helping to network your overall operation. So that's my 2 cents. Cynthia?
Well, I have to say that for me, if somebody tells me I can't do something, then I'm going to work harder to do it, to prove them wrong. So that's kind of how I approach the naysayers. And then actually the employer that I had, when I told them that I was going to be starting a company, they were one of the first naysayers. They said, the market's, it was in 2009, and the market, this is the worst time to start a business. Why are you, starting a business now? And I said, because I know that there's a need for what I'm providing now. So,
they became the first client, even though they were there, and actually they didn't replace me right away because they thought, okay, she's going to realize that this isn't a good idea and she's going to come back. So after 6 months to 8 months, they started saying, oh, we better kind of find a replacement. And so I helped them find a replacement. And I said, you guys need to really replace me because they were a client. But then they realized, okay, well, maybe she was wrong. So it's part of the confidence, of you knowing, you're confident in what you want to start and that there is a market for what you are, trying to provide. And then changing those naysayers' mindset to also believe and then become a client. And, for your family members, for my husband, like if he didn't have a buy-in in the beginning, it would have been very challenging because it's important for your family members to be on board because it affects them too. It's their life too. So if they're not going to be in it with you for the long haul, then, you're going to have some issues. So I had to make sure that my husband was like, okay, are you really going to support me through all of this? Because, I'm going to go into it with both feet and I'm going to keep pressing forward. And, he's more of a, I just do something if I want to do it. He's more of a kind of, I have to kind of think about it. So, so we are, very opposite in that sense. So he was a little scared, but, then he realized, okay, this is working, it paid off. And so he was supportive 200%. So.
Exactly. And it's good in a way to have that alternate concept, that alternate idea, because as a very positive, as a very optimistic person, you can go way over to one side.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that lifeline to pull you back into the middle, because your enthusiasm, your optimism, your excitement creates its own energy. And sometimes that's good, but sometimes it gets you off track. So to have a spouse who has a different idea, a different set, or a different approach to things is really excellent. So yes, sir.
I have a quick question for Cynthia. As far as you being in the government space, let's just say you're already a contractor working under a subcontract as an employee, but you want to expand your own, create your own company and bid for a contract. But obviously there's a, what do you want to call it, sort of a binding agreement between you and the employer that you can't, like a non-compete. So you search for another agency. Say if you work in one agency, but you go to another agency. Now, how, maybe just advise them, how would you approach them putting a bid or RFP, in this case, for a position that you know that you can do the work, but as a company rather than an individual, and from that point you can expand where you can hire somebody else. Now, since you're a company, to take over your role that you were doing that task for, or that job, and then, sort of leapfrog more and more into the company.
Yeah, actually, you can, in most government contracts, you can use your individual experience for your company as experience. There are some contracts who will say corporate experience, they want 3 years of corporate experience, but most of the time they will just ask for experience. And so if you actually are listing as a past performance reference your individual experience in the, in that equivalent type service, most government agencies will count that as experience. So you can actually bring your individual experience in as your corporate experience as you're starting a company.
And they would hire that company, which is you.
Yeah, which is you, exactly.
Right.
Yep. And you can actually use, if the government agency knows that you were on that contract, like if you were, working directly with the company and you have a contact within that agency, you can list that contact and, say that I was a subcontractor or I was an employee on this contract with this, company. So you can actually use that as a...
Right, but that non-compete thing, you can't go for the same...
Right, because it's with a different agency though.
Okay,
you're
but
just using
agency.
it as a reference,
Okay.
but you're using it for a different
I
agency.
see.
As long as you're not,
Right,
yeah,
with,
going with the same
with your
agency.
current, right.
Right.
And then that's something that you would literally have to sabotage, like you're saying, like save up your money and
Right.
then quit your job, literally all in for this new
all
contract.
in, yeah.
That's it. That's right. Exactly.
I think a website and branding is important for an investment initially. But if you can determine what conferences and what networking events are going to be the best value to you because you know that there are potential clients there for you, then that's worth the investment. But I would be very selective on what those are because you can go to a lot of conferences, and if it's not the right mix of people who are clients, you're not going to see any return on that immediately. So you have to really know what conferences and events are going to give you the best networking opportunities to bring in some clients. And then global events, people who are close to you or clients that are close to you are better than clients that are somewhere else initially just to build up your client base.
And on the technological innovation side, what kind of initial investments do you do?
First of all, what kind of company is it?
So, yeah, that was going to be kind of my second question. I kind of a very niche market where I offer services to businesses that want, essentially products and services of businesses who want to do business in the Caribbean or vice versa.
Okay.
I'll sign up for that.
I know I want to talk to you about the travel and transportation that you want to do because I do import and export. Yeah, so
Mhm.
okay, I'm interested in talking.
Yeah, definitely.
And that speaks to one of the real benefits of this group. Make sure that you all network and share your cards and pass around ideas, talk to each other, because you are all in similar boats. And the benefit of having an opportunity to say, I have this business. For me, are you looking at travel activities, or are you, what kind of niche is it that you're looking?
It's quite diversified because what you find, I think similar to probably in Africa, is you end up working with the same decision makers.
Right.
So I can leverage my business in different areas.
Right.
So I'm looking at STEM initiatives, tourism, like let's say in Jamaica, everything falls under the tourism umbrella.
Of course.
Sports, energy, everything.
Mhm.
So it's under the tourism umbrella. Within that, then there's subsections that I've been talking to different individuals. And because I have the contact on the ground, people are approaching me about different things. So I'm going to be the liaison to make the connections within the region.
Well, the initial question that I would have is, do you need any more contacts or opportunities at this point? Are you need to continue to grow it? Absolutely. Okay. So once you get some of these referrals, some of these other activities, have you gone to the embassy in Jamaica and talked about what you are offering and what your connections?
Back on the ground in June, there's a major conference, and I'll be meeting with some of our ministers, as well as I have contacts here with the embassies.
That's what I meant, the contacts here. It's such a specific area, but I would say that you want to have a visible presence both on LinkedIn as well as on your website. On LinkedIn, and one of the things that would be of interest is to take some postings of someone else that is of interest about Jamaica or about something that you're doing, and post that on your LinkedIn website and just like that and then put that down, but then continue to do that on a regular basis so that you can build up a presence and build up a following. The same thing with social media and other activities. You want to have people that are following and interested in what you're doing. Now, as far as networking is concerned, I'm not sure where, I do a lot, I do a ton of networking, but I'm not sure exactly what kinds of groups would be more, maybe export.
Be invited, I'll be glad to.
Well, I'll be happy to come. That's no problem. That's one thing that, especially if it's in Jamaica.
And there was a
Trinidad represented.
Yeah, I don't mind Trinidad either.
What's said about LinkedIn? I don't know if you've already done this, but there are a lot of groups on LinkedIn that are travel specific and maybe even drill down even more specific to the Caribbean. And so you can join those groups and start discussions about, you know, what you do to bring in other, you know, interested parties into this discussion, which is a great networking tool.
It is, you know.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask, local banks are not that friendly to startup businesses. How realistic are alternative financing of types of operations such as angel investors, crowdfunding, or receivable financing?
I'm not that knowledgeable on that because I didn't go that route, so I might have to defer this to Walt.
Okay. One of the things that we recommend is that you use the local banks, meaning the banks that are here in the local area, rather than the national banks. The local banks are more interested in helping the small businesses. However, there are a myriad of other means of financing. How many of you all here are veterans? Okay. There is an organization, and I'll just, I shouldn't really be plugging this, but there's an organization called Street Shares that has created a funding mechanism for veteran businesses that are starting up. And it's Shares, S-H-A-R-E-S, all one word. And they have an interesting approach to financing. They have a couple of $1 million that have been dedicated to them. And what you would do is present your idea to this organization, and they then, if they like it, will put it on the list of all of the various people that are interested in funding veteran operations, and they're individuals for the most part. And if it's a small loan, it's $5,000 to $50,000 as an example, but the people who are lending the money or bidding on the money will say, I can lend $10,000 at 20%, very high interest rate. Okay, if it's a great idea, people will bargain, and basically like an auction, and the interest rates come down to 12, 15, not down to the 3 and 4%, but they do come down. Angel investors, they're mostly focused on specific areas. So they know, for instance, high tech is a very good example. And you'll have some angel investors that are really knowledgeable in high tech, and that's all they focus on. But most of them are looking for bigger opportunities than the small and startup businesses. Crowdfunding is another way of doing business, of getting loans. And again, it's a similar scenario to Street Shares, except that you submit your business plan and your ideas to one of the crowdfunding organizations. There are just go on, can I say Google? No. Go on that G word and put in crowdfunding, huh? Bing! All right, go to Bing, which that other firm uses sometimes as well, according to Alejandro. But the key thing is there are a lot of options. There are a lot of ways of getting funding. The SBA is a good example where you would go to a local bank, or maybe a national bank for that matter, and they look at your overall idea, your portfolio, your credit rating, all those sort of things, and they make a determination. I'm interested in this business, but I don't want to take the full risk of loaning the $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, whatever the amount of money is, on my own balance sheet, on my own bank balance sheet. So I would recommend that we use the SBA loan guarantee as a scenario for that. Now, the reality is that drives the interest rate up, but not significantly given how low the interest rates are right now. Yes, ma'am.
I have a specific question now. I have a building, a commercial building, where it's commercial on the lower level and it's 8 bedrooms on the top. I pay cash for the building, but the building needs a lot of work. So any suggestions as to how I can get a construction company or someone for financing, or any choices actually, but it it's paid for.
Well, the real estate, that is a phenomenal, I mean, you can use the real estate itself as collateral for your loan.
That's true.
That's the key. And so that allows you to get a construction loan through whatever bank you're using as a personal bank or whatever bank you're using for your business.
It's a
Talk-
local Susquehanna.
That's fine. Well, talk to them. Talk to Susquehanna and say, I'm interested in upgrading my building. Here's the specifics. Here's the building itself. Would you provide me with a construction loan? Okay? Simple. That's an easy fix there. You're fortunate.
Are you planning on using that building for the homeless individuals to occupy?
Yes, so the only three houses, well, two of the houses are in Lawrenceburg, West Virginia, where I did the personal, that's working fine. Then we bought this commercial building, what I want to do is, develop a first round, okay, you try this out first,
Mm.
and then we upgrade to the housing, that type of thing. And what I'm finding is when they get settled and very comfortable in their living arrangements, they stay. So then I started running into transition in place where the guys,
Right.
they're happy.
Right.
I'm not gonna move them. If they're happy, I'm happy.
Right.
And so that's where.
Trust me, if as long as their kids is nice,
And
what.
place is immaculate. I have rooms. I've worked on rooms for years.
Well, you have
So
to.
you're standard operating procedures.
That's right. Well, now, are you headquartered or located in West Virginia?
Correct. We're here in West Virginia. I live in Washington D.C. So I do the
Commute?
No, I do the phone.
Okay.
I set the things that go there, but the president of our organization lives there in Martinsburg. So
Got it.
someone
So
there.
they're watching over it.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's really working. I just want to get this model out.
Wonderful.
To get it.
It'll work, but with real estate, with having a fixed asset, the banks are very much more interested. I used to say, when I first started in the insurance business, really years ago, I worked for an insurance company, and I studied for about 6 months, and then I started underwriting, meaning that I would look at risks and make a decision. And the company that I was working for was so risk averse that I began to feel like in the beginning was the word, and the word was no. And so I got very frustrated, and I ultimately left that end of it and got into the sales end, into the brokerage side of it, where I could say, yes, Ed, how can we fix it? You had a question.
I know we're talking about startups and succeeding, but as we all know, a lot of companies don't succeed. So what are the ramifications, I guess at what point you decide you've got to get out, but then what are the sort of the steps to getting out?
I can give you some ideas. Cynthia, do you have? Would you like to buy her company?
I hope I never have to worry about that. I mean, I think you have to be able to have that strategic plan and to project to know, what's going to happen in the horizon. If that plan does not look favorable, then that's when you really need to make the decision to get out. And the steps to get out, it's kind of like a government contract closeout. You have to close out some of the things that you've already put in place. That process.
You need an exit strategy, okay? And what you want to do is to sit down with a mentor, whether it's SCORE or someone else, and go through the various steps of how to unwind the business, how to eliminate the corporate status. If there is some possibility you could sell the business, that's a whole nother scenario. And so when you talk with the mentor or when you talk with someone, you say, all right, I'm in a position where I want to wind this up, and maybe the person will say, all right, is there a way that we can make this more attractive to someone else for them to possibly consider buying it? so that you're not completely, eliminating all of the investment that you put in. It may come down to the point where you have to, or you don't have the option to do so. But the key thing is to do that very, very systematically with your attorney, with your accountant, with all the various people, as well as with a mentor who can help you walk through that.
I worked for a company, Roll Airways. They were in business since 1948. I was with them for 11 years, and past my departure, they were still in existence. They just actually closed their
Wound up.
doors. And so I would recommend what not to do was basically what they did, which was kind of send an email to everybody saying, we're closing our doors. After, they had all of these employees that were there, which was very impersonal for a company that was in business for so long. So, I think also if you do have employees and, there is either you're going to sell the company or you're going to close your doors, there needs to be some type of professional communications with your team. To make sure
Absolutely.
that they are, have time to plan and they're taken care of as well.